All right, so I have John Heald from Tributes.com here, and we're doing a video interview through Skype in regards to the article we posted Wednesday about Legacy.com being sold. The article generated a lot of different topics, and one of the topics that came up was Tributes.com, and there was a lot of comparison to Tributes.com with Legacy.com. And I have had a number of conversations in the last few months with John Heald and John O'Hare, both from Tributes.com, and I had a lot of misconceptions myself about Tributes and what they were doing, and after a number of conversations, really do see a value in the services that they're providing. So, John, thanks for being on the call this morning. I really appreciate the opportunity to, kind of talk with you again and let our readers know, what it is that Tributes.com is doing, and kind of debunk some of these, I guess not necessarily myths, but concerns that funeral directors have.
Sure. Well, no problem at all, Ryan. I appreciate the opportunity. And while this was not planned, through your blog yesterday and a lot of the comments, to your point, Tributes.com was, and to a certain extent, is always thrown in that same bucket as Legacy. So I appreciate the opportunity to not necessarily sell anyone on Tributes.com, but really to tell you kind of who we are, what we do, how we work with funeral homes, and really some of the clear differentiators about what our business is doing. So, with that, I appreciate it, and I think there's a lot to learn here. But at the end of the day, there's a huge opportunity for funeral homes as it squarely relates to the obituary. And we just want to kind of set the stage and dispel some of those maybe misnomers about our company, and really help funeral homes have a better understanding about this opportunity.
Great, and I appreciate that, and let's dive into it. You A little bit about the business model and how it works for the funeral homes, and then we'll get into really the value and how it is valuable for the funeral home. So just
Sure.
what's Tributes.com doing?
So if you were to boil it down from a high-level perspective, Tributes.com's goal is to really build a consumer brand online for obituaries. But we want to do it squarely through partnerships with funeral homes that do a couple of things that drive more traffic back to the website, and also at the same time help them get into the obituary business. And that actually means a lot more, but we really want to help them look at the obituary differently and say, you know what, we can generate some revenue from the obituary. I think what's happened for the past 150 years is that the way it's been mandated is by the FTC that the obit is a cash advanced item. And if we do want to make a profit, we need to disclose it to the family, but we've always moved it over to Exhibit B and put it on that cash advance, so that whatever the paper bills the funeral home is what we bill the family. And that has worked extremely fine. But while we watch what's happening with the newspaper business and the profession at large, there is a huge opportunity because the obit is going in print. And let me also say this. The newspaper is still the de facto place for people to tell someone that they love has passed away.
Right.
And I don't think we're going to see a huge shift overnight, but I think over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a real difference. But there's an opportunity for us as funeral professionals to communicate the value of what we do as it relates to the obit different, that allows us to create revenue from that. And this is probably the biggest behavior change that funeral homes have to get over. And once they get over that, we almost laugh collectively. The partners say, we're in the obit business. I get this. I don't know why we haven't done this from the beginning. But that being said, we really want to build a consumer brand online. If we think about it, every other section of the newspaper has gone to the internet in big formidable brands. If you need to find a job, you can go to Monster, or Career Builder, or LinkedIn, which has become a real competitor in the job space. Dating, there's even dating sites now. Every classified section has migrated to the internet. But square in the middle of this is the obit section that has always remained that laggard section. And why isn't there a brand online? So as we looked at this opportunity, the gentleman that we work with, Jeff Taylor, had some success with Monster, but that's in the past. And as he was looking at this obit section, there were kind of 3 glaring questions, Ryan. One, I guess this is what you do when someone passes away. You put a little death notice into the newspaper, and you tell people when the wake services or where to send flowers are going to be. But if I'm in Boston and I heard about a friend or a colleague or a relative that died in Columbus, Ohio, or San Francisco, how do I find that obit if I don't know where to go to get started? The second one is, why is it so expensive to tell people that someone died? And you and I were out in Ohio last week, and we were hearing that an obit in the newspaper would run anywhere from $400 up to $1,000,
Right.
depending on when they did it. And then the last question is, how much money does the funeral home make off the obit? And when we heard a resounding collective, I don't make any money, as a matter of fact, when I don't get paid, the newspaper still does. So we looked at this opportunity to know that obits will go to the web, and we said, let's build a company that partners with funeral homes to do this. And that's the one thing that I'm extremely, I guess, maybe proud of, is that we are doing this through partnerships with funeral homes. And I think it's a tremendous opportunity for our profession at large to be able to take control of this back and really engage and dictate what the future of the online obit is going to be. So does that make sense as far as a high level, what we're doing?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's important to point out too that you yourself are a funeral director and have a funeral home, and John O'Hara is a funeral director. So Tributes has funeral directors that are in the trenches and with Tributes that they're working with. So I think that's an important fact to point out, just that, as a funeral home owner, you see value in what Tributes is doing. And if it wasn't a value to your funeral home, you definitely wouldn't be using them or working with them.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because I do think there's some credibility in the fact that we have a phenomenal company with great leadership, but a really good mix of people who are looking and know the funeral profession well, but some other people that understand the classified sections. But, I have my hand up. I am a funeral director at heart, at trade. My brother, we own a funeral home, and we put obits into the newspaper every single day because that's what our families want. But at the same time, we know and realize the value of getting that obituary online at our website as quickly as possible is huge. I joke with my brother Jim, but I almost challenge him to make it a race, that when we have an obituary that needs to get published, that it goes on our website first. And that we know that there are deadlines with the newspaper, but we want it on our website because we want the crawlers and all the search engines out there to hit our site and to know that we are the funeral home that's providing that source. And to jump right into it, a standalone funeral home has a very, very hard time to pop up in the first page of search results.
Right.
And, I think through a partnership with a company like ours, where we're able to garner, right now we're tracking about 2.5 million monthly unique visitors, to take advantage of that energy and that link love, as you would understand it, is a huge opportunity so that we can help funeral homes start to appear on the first page of those search results. Because I just happen to be of the opinion, Ryan, that if I'm serving a family, I want those people who are looking for the obit to be reading it at my website.
Right.
And while I understand that it's going to go into the newspaper one day tomorrow, and the newspaper is now taking it and putting it online for an additional non-declinable fee, which, again, I think I have a little bit of a problem with, but I get it and I understand it because the newspapers are about local content. There's been a big business that's been built as a result of this, and congratulations to Legacy, because, like we all are in funeral service, if we're building funeral homes, there's maybe the end of the day, the dream goal is to sell, and hopefully you're going to get top dollar for it. So Legacy has done that, but I'm just challenged in that they've been taking content and repurposing it on the newspaper's website, which is not a bad thing. But then there's a whole lot of e-commerce activity that's happening around it, which, again, I just feel that we need to drive that e-commerce and those eyeballs back to the funeral home, so they're the ones, to your point earlier, from a branding perspective, and then also e-commerce and flowers and all the different things that they can do. So I think that's one of the differentiators that we want to try and set forth.
Perfect. Well, that leads into one of the biggest concerns that was posted on the site yesterday in some of the comments to the Legacy article, was that Tributes is still getting the traffic and not the funeral home website. So how are you, from Tributes, getting the traffic back to the funeral home?
Yeah, and fair question, and it's one of these things. I'm actually going to hold up this article that I'll forward to you, Ryan, so that if you wanted to post it or anyone wants it. But Elaine Haney, our president, wrote a very interesting article that was published in American Funeral Director. And what's been wonderful about funeral service for the past 5 or 10 years is that all of the technology discussions that are coming into it I still think that funeral service and technology are a little bit like oil and water, in that we're getting there, and we're pushing with guys like you and all these different people that are out there trying to educate them. There's still a lot of misconceptions about, who you need to work with, how it's supposed to be done, and what it all means in the end. And I think in the end, it needs to be about the funeral home. It needs to be about their branding. It needs to be about any supplemental advertising that the funeral home wants to actually offer, or different services that they may be doing. So as a matter of that, we Tributes have the ability to power just the obituary section of that funeral home's website. But if we do it right by working with that web provider, the integration is seamless and the experience is wonderful. And I say this because that's what we need to do. We need to provide that user, that family, who comes to visit the obituary at the funeral home website with a very positive, warm, welcoming, simple, and intuitive experience when they're looking for that obit content. And right now we're in this space where a big picture of our business is about distribution, but we're able to provide a platform that allows our partners to take advantage of some really, really good features and functionality that they may or may not be able to get. So the answer is, while we do power the obituary section, because of our ability to garner traffic to the 2.5 million monthly unique visitors that I said earlier, we're able to help get funeral homes more visitors back to their website. And I can tell you, when you go there and you're Googling and you come to the link of an obituary in Google, when you click there, you are going there. It is a funeral home experience. And that's what I want. And I'll go back to my personal experience. We have a website. Tributes powers it. Go look at any of my obits, and you will see that the branding, the integration, the features, the functionality is all about my website. I just happen to be taking advantage of something that Tributes has built that is extremely powerful and done in a way that promotes my funeral home. So selfishly, that's what our company is going to make it all about. We need to make it 100% about the funeral home. But I think, again, at large, why don't we do this all together? And that, if we think about it, Ryan, I don't know what the latest number is. I'd be curious if you knew it, but there's 19,000 funeral homes plus or minus across the country, and mix of corporate and independent. And yet we have all of these 19,000 different brands.
Right.
So while we understand, or one of the reactions from a funeral home is, well, I want that visitor at my website. I don't want them to go anywhere else. And I only want them at my website. And I get it. I understand it. I couldn't agree more. The problem is that if the user can't find you, they're never going to get to your website anyway.
Right.
So take advantage of something else out there, i.e. attributes that can help you do a better job with search engine optimization, provide you with features and functionality, and provide that user experience as positive as it can be back at the funeral home website. So I think it's important because our business is just so much focused on funeral service, and the core to it is that it all revolves around the obituary. Whether you take a small firm like mine that's just getting started, or some of our partners that are doing thousands of calls, and whether it be a direct cremation or a full service funeral, the obit is core to one of the services that we provide. And if we look at it differently and communicate it differently, there is a huge opportunity for the funeral director to, one, create a better experience, and two, make a little bit of money. And last I knew, the funeral homes aren't not-for-profits. We're in a business to drive revenue. And we learned from Ohio last week that we're here to learn to find new ways to create new revenue streams, because cremation's going up, profit margins are at the thinnest they've ever been. What's out there that we can look at that is going to accomplish exactly that without a whole lot of significant investment? And I think that's an important differentiator, that we've never strayed from our model that we're going to build this for and by a funeral service. And the one thing that I'll add to that is that, and we heard it last week, it's a little bit maddening when I take an obit and I put it into a newspaper, maybe 4 different newspapers, because there's families across the state, and then they take that and repurpose it and put it online. And I get it, because it's going to go out there, it's local content, but it's repurposed for a non-declinable fee that my families are paying that they're really not aware of. And then when it's put there, there's a lot of e-commerce that goes around it that does not benefit my funeral home.
Right.
While they see the obit, they see my funeral home name, that's great, I love it, but I'd rather have them right at my website to do that.
Well,
so does that make
absolutely makes great sense. And I want to point out 2 things that you said and just kind of ask you about them real quick, maybe expand upon them a little bit. One, you talked a lot about branding as the funeral home. From my understanding, from a conversation last week with you and John, when the obit is hosted by Tributes and served to the funeral home, when the user clicks on that obit link, the URL is masked as Tributes. But everything is, or I'm sorry, it has Tributes dot and then the funeral home's URL. So the funeral home is still getting the branding in the URL, and the entire obit is branded with the funeral home, correct?
Absolutely, Ryan, and it is the funeralhomename.tributes.com, and I think if you were to look at a lot of the other website providers out there that, whether the obit opens in a new window, people looking specifically at the URL, to your point, if the funeral home name is in there, it's a branding experience.
Right.
When you click there and you go there and you see the funeral home logo and name and all these different hyperlinks, it's funeral home branding. If you go there and you look at any of the ad units, and I don't like really saying the word ad unit up against an obit, but there's ad blocks that the funeral home gets to put in there to promote their flower partnership. They want to put up grief content because they've got a great grief provider, or chocolates, or pre-planning. All of these are units that the funeral home controls.
Okay.
We just put them up there, and not only are they at the funeral home website, they're out on the Tributes.com network. So very important that there is advertising on our obits that are coming from our paid customers. They just happen to be the funeral home's ad blocks, not Tributes.com.
Which is a great point, and that was a question that was raised yesterday again in one of the comments. Is, hey, Tributes is serving up ads too, and it must have been a funeral director that does use your service who was, very pleased. Said, hey, I got control over every ad block that goes up. Every link goes back to my website. Every link in the obit goes back to my website. And from an SEO standpoint, there was the concern made that, well, if it's still hosted by Tributes and the URL's the funeral home name.tributes.com, Tributes is still getting the SEO credit from that, which is not necessarily true. Yes, you're getting that SEO credit from the initial click, but all the click-throughs are going back to the funeral home website, which is generating SEO credit for the funeral home more so than what they would get standing alone by themselves, because they would probably never get that click-through.
Yeah. Boy, you just hit the nail on the head, and you summed it up perfectly, because it is all about different ways and we can get the consumer to engage further with that funeral home website. And when they click the pre-planning ad because they want more information about planning ahead, it's going to the funeral home's landing page, whether it's the online form or if it's specific content. That's all funeral homes. So it's very, very important. And to your other comment, we just want to make sure that when a funeral home complains about SEO, that they're not being at their website, I guess one of the challenges I would say is, what are they doing to monetize that traffic when they come to the website? And I think that there are huge times when they don't do anything, but in their mind they feel better because they're at the funeral home's website, right, versus looking at it and going, I'm going to get more people to look at my obits, and I'm going to get more people to look at the different services that I provide. That's where you start to win. And we've got to do this so that we get them to the funeral home website to be able to have the opportunity to do that.
Well, I'm glad you said that about monetizing users, because one of the things I always mention in my social media presentation is, is a visitor to your website or a visitor to your Facebook page when they click the like button more valuable? And I have to think personally that it's the visit to the Facebook page, because they're interacting with your brand by clicking the like button and then spreading your brand further. They were there, and now you have a contact reach for that user. When someone lands on your website just random, whether it's searching for an obit or a funeral service, there isn't any value there for the funeral home if there's no contact information given and no interaction with that user. It's like you never knew they were there. So, I'm glad you made that point. And
you brought up Facebook, Ryan, and just because I think it's it's the buzz. We're waiting for the IPO, and as everyone in the world is, but there's also this question around, do I do Facebook? Do I put my obits on there? Do I have a business page? Of which I think you do a very good job of promoting. If you don't have a business page, man, you need one, because it is a huge additional distribution point for content that you're going to be able to put out there, and whether it be just information about seminars that you've got upcoming. But the reality is, when someone dies, there's a tremendous amount of energy around Facebook. And if there's an opportunity to tell those people that like your business page, these are the services that we have upcoming, and they may not necessarily be on the wall, but there's a tab. Actually, we just built an app that allows us to have obits automatically posted to your obit to
Yeah, I
your
wanted to ask you about that, so please.
page.
Yeah.
And you think about it, I've been amazed. I'm learning about people dying because of Facebook. And I watch what's happening in the energy that's put there and all the comments that I actually call condolences, if you think about it. You know, I can't believe that Joe died, and my thoughts and prayers are with the family. And you're going, wow, that's really, really good. But how do we get that energy and that condolence back over to the funeral home website? So we just built an app where if there's a condolence left on the funeral home's business page, it will actually be automatically populated on the funeral home's website page. So there's this virality that continues because we've built the cross-pollination, if you will, but we need to. We want to capture as much energy around the obit as we can as possible, and Facebook just happens to be a phenomenal way in which to do it, a great distribution point, and oh, by the way, free, right? So we all love that, but it's an important aspect of our business that while we don't understand it, people who don't can ask guys like you to give them some help and direction, but we need to pay attention to this because we know it's not going away. And an old story is that a funeral director, a very progressive funeral director, sent out an email, and I happened to be included on it. And the crux of the email was, hey, if we think Facebook is a fad, we have another thing coming. And there was an obit that we ran in the newspaper that Jane Smith passed away. For a complete obituary, visit www.facebook.com/Jane Smith. And the bigger point in that is, where is the funeral home in the middle of this? Mm-hmm. We need to be the ones to be the newsroom when someone dies and allow people to take the obit and distribute it to their Facebook pages and all the other things. So there's a great opportunity to take advantage of what Facebook offers, but it's still at the end of the day, when they click that obit on Facebook, where do they end up? The funeral home's website. Right. You got to get it all back there. So.
Well, John, I really appreciate your time, and I want to throw the disclaimer out there, and you mentioned at the beginning that this was a impromptu interview, was not planned, based on the comments that, in the conversation that the article yesterday about Legacy created. I was able to quickly reach out to you and say, hey, can we have a conversation tomorrow? By no means is this an advertisement for Tributes whatsoever. You guys provide us with great content through John's ability to write technological articles each week, so it's not centered around Tributes, but this was an impromptu. It was a way for me to let you better explain what Tributes is doing and how it needs to be separated from that package of Legacy, and excuse me, not tied to that, because I really think that your service is vastly different, and it is benefiting the funeral home greater than anything that Legacy has ever done. So I think it's important that funeral directors realize the power of the obituary, the opportunity they have with the obituary, and the opportunity they have to partner with companies that can help them get that traffic back to their website and really power their branding through the obituary. Because, I mean, let's face it, the obituary is one of the greatest marketing tools that the funeral home has, and it's always been a secondary item. And I think you guys are doing a great job putting a lot of that importance back. And we did a video clip on Monday from Sheryl Sandberg, COO of Facebook, her experience of putting her grandmother's obituary on their page. And I think one of the most important points from that video was they didn't put it in the newspaper. She only put it on Facebook. And I think we're going to see more of that. So how's the funeral home, like you said, play a part in that and get that traffic and really use the obituary as a valuable tool, and people are interacting with it. So thank you for your time. I always give people that I do interviews with like this, if there's a viewer watching, where can they go to get more information? How can they get a hold of you or somebody that at Tributes that can help them really dive a little bit deeper into some of the concerns with SEO and ads, and really get a more detailed answer of how that's going to value them versus drive traffic away and hurt them?
Sure. So first and foremost, I do appreciate this because this was just asked yesterday, and we would obviously love the opportunity in any way we can to kind of tell people who we are and really what we do for funeral service. And you know, it's interesting. In our last 4 years, when we started the company, we didn't have one visitor to our website. We didn't have one funeral home partner, and here we are years later with some really good traffic. We have a lot of work to do, but we have a significant amount of funeral home partners that range in call volumes that I pointed out earlier. But at the end of the day, it's going to revolve squarely around what you just described, the obituary, and it is the number one means in which for us to continue to market the services that we do and the families that we're serving. But there's a new way in which to do it, and it's the online obit, and we need to make sure that that experience for the family and the friends and every single visitor is as powerful and meaningful as possible. And we're just a little company that's trying to help funeral homes be able to do that. So a huge thank you for that. Anyone who wants to learn more, to get a copy of an article that was written, just ask any questions about tributes. My email address is john@tributes.com. And feel free to shoot me an email, check out our website. Be happy to put you in touch with funeral homes that like the gentleman who pointed out yesterday. I don't know who he was, but he was saying some really good things about us. But there's some other people that don't understand our business, and that's why I appreciate you taking the opportunity for us to. We just have to educate, because I think as we educate more about the current model versus the new model, funeral directors will start to get it and say, all right, let's go. I want to be a part of this change because it's going to happen, and I just want to be a part of it. So with that. Keep up the great work, Ryan. I love getting the daily updates and all the kind of the breaking news around funeral service. So we appreciate it, and anything that we can do to support education and technology around funeral service, we're going to do it.
Well, great. Well, thank you, John. Really appreciate your time. Excuse me. And I look forward to continuing this conversation, and hopefully there'll be some comments to this video that can create more discussion and really dive into the crux of what it is that's going on in the industry surrounding the obit. So thank you for your service, and thank you for squeezing out this half hour or so during your day in between everything else you got going on. I really appreciate it.
You got it, and I'm sure I'll see you at some part of the country in the next couple of months. So talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, thanks.
See you, Ryan.